Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem. Welcome back to today's Daf Hayomi Maseches TEMURAH Daf Tesvav. We begin at the Mishnah, which is 4 lines from the top of the Amid. Before we begin, we're meant to know that a korban chatas, which is meant to atone for a sin, has only one solitary function, which is that to be mechaper on a chet, and only the one original korban chatas can do that. But if it's a derivative of a korban chatas, for instance, a vlad, an offspring of a korban chatas, a TEMURAH of a korban chatas, and likewise several other chatas variations, 5 in total, one which is already past its intended age. It's meant to be within a year of its birth, parshanut-torah-comment, if it's past that point, it's over age. You have a chatas whose owner passed away, or whose owner already had atonement from a different korban chatas. So all these 5 variations of korban chatas cannot be offered as a korban chatas. Rather, we learn through the halacha Meshmi Sinai, there's no recourse other than lemisa. It's left to die. So these are called the chamesh, the 5 chatois hamesos, the 5 types of chatas which are left to die. Now, that certainly applies if it's a private personal korban chatas. So if we have a vlad of a chatas, a TEMURAH of a chatas, we have one that was ibra shnasa, right, past the first year. We have one who shemesu ba'aleh, whose owner passed away, or shechipru ba'aleh, whose owner already received atonement through a different korban. So if it's a chatas ha'yochid, a personal private chatas, it goes l'misa. Question: what if it's a chatas ha'tzibur, a public chatas that experiences these experiences? What happens there? Now we're meant to know that 3 of the 5 are not applicable practically, not applicable by a tzibur. For instance, vlad. There is no vlad chatas of a tzibur because a tzibur will only bring a chatas of the male gender. There is no chatas in the keva by tzibur. So there's no option of a vlad chatas. Next, there's no TEMURAH's chatas. As we learned many times, a tzibur cannot make a TEMURAH. So there's no vlad. There's no TEMURAH. What about Mesu Ba'aleh? We'll see in the Gemara. It's also not applicable because Klal Yisrael is eternal. There's no concept of the owner passing away when it's a korban tzibur. So 3 out of 5 are not really applicable. So the question is, are the other 2 relevant to the tzibur? Or do we say it's one package, all or nothing? So by chatas yochid, all 5 apply, great. But by a tzibur, where 3 out of 5 certainly are not relevant, so perhaps the whole package doesn't apply to the tzibur. Suppose we have a chatas tzibur who's over age, or shekipru ba'aleh ba'acheres. Let's say the animal got lost, they found another one, which they offered as a korban chatas, now we discovered the lost one. So perhaps there's no din of misa on those either. So actually, that point is subject to machlekes in our Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda says that why not? I mean, the ones that are applicable are applicable, and there's misa by tzibur as well. Tanna Kamma, and followed up by Rabbi Shimon's explanation, seems to be the same person. That no, it's all or nothing. The halacha Meshmi Sinai is one package. Either all 5 apply or none apply. So let's say the Mishnah inside. Chatas ha'yachad, the personal chatas, shekipru ba'aleh, whose owner received atonement from a different korban. How's that? So Rashi says, she'avda, his chatas went missing, and he substituted with another one, miskaver ba'acheres, which he offered as a kapara, and then, lo and behold, he discovers the lost one, nimtzas harishayna. So it goes l'misa. Chatas ha'yochid, shekibur ba'aleh mesa. However, shal tzibur, in a parallel situation, if it's a korban tzibur, eino mesa, there's no misa there. Rabbi Damer, Thomas, there is misa. Amar Reb Shimon. You know why there's no misa by tzibur? He says we have a halacha Meshmi Sinai that it's 5 types of chatois hamesos. And since 3 of the 5 are not applicable by tzibur, apparently the whole concept does not apply to a carbon tzibur. Just like we find bevlad chatas. Regarding that deviation, the vlad of chatas, TEMURAH chatas, or that type, whose owner passed away, which are not relevant by a tzibur. It only applies to a personal carbon, according to the gears of the Bach. Likewise, the other 2 are only by a yochid. Afsha kipru ba'leo, ve'ivra shnasa. Likewise, the other 2, the owner had kapara through a different carbon, or the carbon is over age. It only applies to biyachid devar mamurim and not v'loy b'tzibur. Tanaraban. Ma'u oimer chatos yavi. We have a pasuk by carbon chatos which reads like this: V'mkeves yavi karbanos l'chatos, nekeva tmima yiviena. And Rashi explains. It would seem that the words yavi bring and the word yiviena at the end of the pasuk as well as extra. Could have just says v'mkeves, karbanos l'chatos, without the word yavi. What's the pasuk yavi coming to add? Tanaraban. Ma'u oimer chatos yavi. The answer is like this. How do we know? In the case where L'magdish chatas avda, Ruvain had an obligation to bring a chatas. He set aside the carbon, and it disappeared on him. And he substituted it with another one, so he set aside another animal instead. And then suddenly the first one shows up. Kayamis, it's right there. Varashtein Oindas, and he has 2 before him. What does he do now? Minayin, how do we know she'ezoi men she'yirtze yavi? How do we know that he has equal eye, equal choice? He can choose either one. Either one is suitable. Tamalema chatas yavi. Yavi tells us you have the option to choose either one. Yochel yavi shtein. Okay, maybe I'll bring both. Tamalema yiviena. Vienna is singular. Achas le'shtein, only one and not both. So once he offers one, whichever one, what happens to the second one? And the second one, Mati Alea, what's his status? So this seems to be your classic Chatos Shekipru Ba'alea Ba'acheres, which is one of the Chamesh Chatos HaMeses. But listen to this. Amar Rav Nuna, it's not so simple. Tanya, Rabbi Doimer Tira. Rabbi says, no Misa, even though it's a private carbon Chatos, which is unneeded, Tira. Let it go to the farm, to pasture, run around, get a blemish, and you sell it and use the money for another carbon or whatever. So basically, according to Rabbi Yehuda, there's no din misa here, even though it's in Schaper Bela Bacharis. Reb Shimon Aimer, Thomas. Reb Shimon says Misa applies. Look, it's a Chatas HaYachid, whose owner already got Kapara, goes to Misa. So the question is, Umi Amar Rabbi Yehuda Tira. Is that so that according to Rabbi Yehuda, there's no Misa here? Look back in the Mishnah, where Rabbi Yehuda is quoted as saying Thomas, even by a Chatas Tzibur, certainly by a Chatas Yachid. Haven't we heard Rabbi Yehuda speak about Misa? Thomas Sheminale. If we have to switch around the names. Rabbi Daimer Thomas, Rabbi Shimon Aimer Tira. So we'll switch around the names. Rabbi Yehuda will say Thomas, consistent with his words in the Mishnah. Rabbi Shimon is the one who says Tira. But that's also inconsistent with the Mishnah, because in the Mishnah clearly Rabbi Shimon implies that this type of Chatas goes la Misa. The question is only by the Tzibur, but in general it goes la Misa. How could he say Tira? Umi Amar Rabbi Shimon Tira? Is that sort of according to Rabbi Shimon? He let a pasture and get a mum and convert the Kedusha to a different. V'Amar Rabbi Shimon Chamesh Chatos Meis. Rabbi Shimon clearly taught us in our Mishnah that there are 5 variations of Chatas which go la Misa, one of which is this type. You're right, don't switch anything around. And in concept, a Chatas HaYachid in this type of state goes la Misa, as per the implication in the Mishnah, as per Reb Shimon's Shita here in the Brisa. Question: why did Rabbi Yehuda say Tira and not Thomas? Like Kasha answers like this: we're talking about a certain variation which does not go la Misa. Kan ba'avuda b'shas hafrasha, kan ba'avuda b'shas kapara. When do we all agree that the unneeded chatas goes lemisa? That's when it was lost, b'shas kapara, when he actually offered the substitute as a carbon, and then he discovered the lost one. It's too late. You've been rejected, you go lemisa. However, in the Brisa, where Rabbi Yehuda says tira is speaking bavuda b'shas hafrasha. So let's picture it like this: we have an animal chatas, got lost. He went ahead and he backed it up with another one. And then before he got a chance to be makar of the second one, he found the first one. So the first one was only avuda, was lost b'shas hafrasha at the time of designation of the second one, but it was never really rejected. It wasn't out of sight when he was mischaper with the second one. So in this case, it's not so far off the track. It's not been so rejected. The halacha is in this case is no misa, according to Rabbi Yehuda. Another way to learn, the Mishnah that spoke about the misa and the Brisa that speaks about letting it pasture, according to Rabbi Yehuda, are both speaking about the same kind of case, where the lost one was discovered before he got a chance to offer the second one as a kapara. So it was only missing during the hafrasha of the second one. And this is a very well-known machlokes discussed later in the Masechta, whether there's misa or not. L'kash answers like this: Rabbi Dali Rabbi. In the Mishnah, Rabbi is in line with Rabbi's Shita, who holds that there's misa in this case as well. Rabbi Dali Rabbanon, whereas in the Brisa he's following the Rabbanon who say there's no misa unless the missing one was only discovered after, once it was too late, after he had kapara from the new one. Okay, so in general we have 5 variations of echatas which go lemisa: Vlad, Temurah, Ibrashnasa, Kippur Ba'aleh Ba'acheres, Umesu Ba'aleh. In Kippur Ba'aleh Ba'acheres we have all to do, depending on when he discovered the lost one. And the question is regarding tzibur. So 3 don't apply to it: tzibur, Vlad, Temurah, and Mesu Ba'aleh. We have machlokes regarding Kippur Ba'aleh or Ibrashnasa. Rabbi Yehuda says misa. Rabbi Shimon says there's no concept of misa by tzibur. Ask the Gemara, Umikal Amada Amar. So now we're going to focus on Rabbi Yehuda, that there is a chatas hameis even by tzibur. Is that so? Is there anybody that holds chatas tzibur shekibur balea bailum mesa, that a public chatas whose owner already experienced atonement from a different carbon? This chatas will now have misa. And Yisrael Atani, we turn to Talmud Bavli. Kayotze. In similar vein, now Rashi says, I'm not sure what this is going on. Tosfos says it's going on the karbanos of the Levium, where Levi, when he was incorporated, the first back in the Midbar into the Avodah, so they brought 2 karbanos. The second one was an oila, and the pasuk there, the Brisa learns that the chatas, unlike a typical chatas which is consumed and eaten by the kayanim, this one was totally burnt on the mizbeach. Kayetze, in similar fashion, we find another chatas of unique stature that will not be eaten, rather will be burnt on the mizbeach. Amar Rabbi Yosi. So this pasuk describes a scene when they were inaugurating the second Beis Hamikdash, and there was a mix of people in the crowd. Some had never seen a Beis Hamikdash before. They were the younger crowd, and they were alive in ecstasy. They were so excited, b'simcha, on account of the great celebration, the inauguration of the new Beis Hamikdash. But ironically, there was another group that was actually crying, openly crying. And those were the elders, the senior members, who were recalling the former glory of the first Beis Hamikdash, to which the second Beis Hamikdash could not compare. There were so many elements of Shekhinah and etc. that were there back in the first Beis Hamikdash, which was no longer here, and they were crying openly during that event. And in fact, they brought korbanos to be mechaper on account of an avera. We'll see exactly what, which occurred during the first Beis Hamikdash, which they were, a party to. We have this pasuk v'haboyim mi'ashvi b'nei hagoyla, those who were returning from the Galus, from the exile, hikrivu oilos, they offered oilos. How many? Parim shnei masar, 12, corresponding to the 12 Shavatim. Elim, how many rams? Huge amount, 96, Tisha B'Tisha. How many sheep? Kvasim, Shivim, Shiva, 77. Tzviri Chatas. These are the goats for Chatas, Shnei Masar, 12, again, for the 12 Shvatim. HaKoil Oila Hashem. And the pasuk labels them all as Karban Oila. And the question is, some were Chatas. The Chatas mikarva Oila. Why is a Chatas being offered as an Oila? It's a different carbon. Amarava is to indicate the process, the status of this Chatas, which was unique. Unlike a regular Chatas, which is consumed by the Kohanim. But here it was different. Amarava ki Oila. The pasuk pairs it up with the Oila with respect to a comparative element to the Oila. Ma Oila Oila Nechel, it's just like you won't eat an Oila. That's why it's called an Oila. It's completely on the Mizbeach. Oila, right? Av Chatas in Nachelas likewise. In this case, the Chatas was not consumed. You know why? This wasn't your regular Chatas. Shahayar Rabbi Omer, he would explain. Allah V'dezar Hevim, they brought it to atone for idol worship, which occurred way back during the first Beis Hamikdash. V'amar Vidamar Shmuel, Allah V'dezar also made tzidkiyo. It was to address the Avidzar transgressions which occurred back in the time of tzidkiyo during the first Beis Hamikdash, to which some of these members were present, were a party to. So that's why it was not a regular chatas that would be consumed. It was a chatas of a zara, which Rashi explains. We know is a different type of chatas which is burnt in the mizbeach completely. And that explains why they applied this process to the chatayos as well. So clearly, according to this interpretation of events, the chatas wasn't for a present day sin; it was for a past sin that occurred way back, 70, plus years ago. And the question is, how do you bring a chata so late? Now the Gemara at this point figured that, back to the Mishnah, we had that machlekes, whether, chatas tzibur is subject to the halachas of chatois hamesos. And we assume that it goes hand in hand. Just as Rabbi Yehuda back in the Mishnah held that a public chatas, whose owners, the public, the nation, had already achieved kapara elsewhere. So this chatas, unneeded chatas, goes lemisa. Islainami, you would also apply the same idea to a chatas tzibur, whose owners have already passed away, such as in this case. It's past generation. We assume that he holds that likewise, if it's a chatas tzibur whose owners passed away, it goes lemisa. And the question is, the Gemara is assuming at this point there's nobody left from that early generation, from the actual idol worshippers. But in this case, dika demeis balel vika karva. Fact is that it's been a while since the Avera took place. And Rashi seems to say that the Gemara is asking that all the owners died, all the ones that were party to those experiences were no longer with us throughout the 70 years of Bavli, and they all passed away. So how could we even bring this carbon now? It's too late. Amar, Papa, listen to this. Even according to Yehuda, that a chatas tzibur, where they achieved kapar elsewhere, this chatas goes lemisa, but chatas tzibur shemesu ba'aleh ina mesa. But chatas tzibur whose owners had passed away, that chatas has no misa. Why? Lafi, because she'ein ha tzibur mesim. There's no concept of death in reference to the public, in reference to the community. The nation is enduring, it's eternal, it lives on. That's the Lashon Rashi in Gemara and Hurriyas. She'ein misa b'tzibur. The Farshim explain, tzibur is not a specific person or persons, it's a concept. The nation, as a collective entity. That goes on and on. In which case, you can still bring the same carbon as you would have when the actual sinners were around. Because it's the tzibur bringing the carbon. Remember, there are two types of chatois. It's a chatos yachar, a person worships an idol, brings his own personal chatos. But here, if it's a tzibur, as a collective entity, who are obligated to bring this carbon, that obligation is still applicable. It's still alive, it's still active, despite the fact that those specific members who sinned are no longer with us. So the question was, whose owner passed away? No. The owner is a tzibur. Tzibur is alive and well. Ask the Gemara, how does Rav Papa know this huge concept? That there's no misa by the tzibur. Is it because of the pasuk which says, the children take the place of the parents. So it's one continuity. It's one continuation. If that's the case, this concept of one continuum applies even to an individual. Reuben passes away, his son Shimon's here, takes over. So there's no death. Elainu time. She'enat tzibur meisen. Rather, the reason why we say enat tzibur meisen, how do we know that to be true? Look at karbanos throughout the year, which proves it, which confirms this point. Mesirah regola. Rosh Hashanah, we have chatois tzibur throughout the year of regolim, Rosh Hashanah. Torah says, bring karbanos on these occasions, financed by way of the machzas hashekel, which was donated by the general public. So they're the owners. Now, what if somebody passes away throughout the year? Comes Rosh Chodesh, you're using his money to buy a car. He's no longer here. The Torah says, I sinu, purchase these karbanos mitrumas alishka, from the money of the lishka, where they have the coins donated by the public. Perhaps the owner passed away, the hanizuzi of these monies, of these coins, and using his money, that's a chatas whose owner is not around. El Lashmami, no. And Tzibur Mesim that confirms our point that this concept of misa does not apply to Tzibur. The tzibur lives on and well, lives on, alive and well. Another answer could be presented to answer this question of how did they bring the chatas if the sinners were no longer around? The answer is some and some. Some were still here. So some of these individuals that were celebrating or mourning were actually those same people that were around during the first Beit HaMikdash, who sinned, who were obligated to bring the korban. So the owner was alive and well. In fact, when they offered these karbanis, when they offered these chatois, the akrava was for the people who were alive, who carried over from the first Beit HaMikdash. The Chesiv, as the pasuk says, that there were elders there crying, comparing in their minds, and the old Beis Hamikdash, new Beis Hamikdash, Rabbim, Kehanim, Alavim, Boshe Abayis, Azkein, many of the Kehanim, Alavim, Asher Ros, Abayis, Arishim, Biyast, Abayis, some of the people there, the elders, the Kehanim, who, when experiencing the inauguration of the second Beis Hamikdash, they were the ones who had seen the first Beis Hamikdash in its great glory, Boichem, right? Biyast, Abayis, when they saw the new Beis Hamikdash, Boichem, Kol Gadol, crying out loud, V'Rabim Bisru, and V'Rabim, but many others, the younger crowd, Bisru, were celebrating with joy and happiness on account of leaving the Golus and leaving and having a new Beis Hamikdash. So clearly we have, senior members, the ones that were crying, that were. Perhaps the korban was for them. and they were alive and well. How could you say it? Maybe the elders were the minority, a miyut. And Rashi explains that it would not trigger a public karban chatas. You see, Rashi points out, look at the numbers. We had 12 oilois, 12 chatois. Why 12? One per shevet. That's a specific halacha. When we have the, nation as a whole, or the majority of the nation committing avodah zarah, then you bring the special chatas, one per shevet. But if it's just a couple of people, a couple of individuals, then each person brings his own carbon. It's a different system. So perhaps the elders were just a minority. If that's the case, it would not justify, it would not explain why they offered this public, format of chatas. Oh, the fact is that they're doing a public chatas. Apparently they're addressing members that are not here as well. They're addressing the collective entity of Klal Yisrael, apparently, because there's no misa b'tzibur. That proves our point. Lo Matzas Amr says, well, no, you can't say that. You can't suggest that it was only a small number of senior members. The ksiv, because we find the pasuk. There was so much crying, it overwhelmed. The celebratory, pump. The ksiv, ve'eino makirim kol trumas hasimcha. You couldn't make out the sounds of happiness and celebration, because it was overwhelmed and drowned out by the bechi, by the crying. Apparently, there was lots of that going on. So it's very, very likely that there was a large number of individuals in the crowd who were in fact a carryover from the first Beis Hamikdash, and they themselves were obligated. They themselves were guilty in avodah zarah, so they had to bring the korban. Okay. So according to this approach, there's no raya from here that Amy said b'tzibur. According to the first approach to use. Ask the Gemara, here comes a new question. You're bringing a korban for avodah zarah, very mezid and havu. They were mazid. They were willful sinners. We know that, right? In the first place, Hamikdash was avodah zarah outright, and the avodah zarah korban avodah zarah only comes when it's a shaygig. It was unawareness. You're right. It wasn't a standard conventional korban. It was a special exception for that time. They got a special, halacha for that time to bring a korban despite the fact that it was mazid. I'll even prove to you that this is an exceptional system. TEMURAH, because otherwise, if you don't agree, shleima. Take a look at the numbers of the korbanos. Shleima, param, musirim. So param and seirim were 12 each. Okay, one per shevet, that works. Keneged shneimos shvatim. Ella kvasim keneged mi. What about the 77 sheep? And Ella Rosh Ha'is apparently was an exceptional, event, unlike any other. Okay, continues the Gemara. Tanan Hasam. So we spoke about the halacha Moshe Sinai of the 5 types of chatos that go lemisa, and actually we're going to see later that there was some confusion because there was shikacha when Moshe Rabbeinu passed away. During the mourning period of Moshe Rabbeinu's passing, they forgot halachas, including this halacha. So we'll get to that later. But first, Tanan Hasam. Let's go to the Mishnah Masechah Sotah, extolling the virtues of our great leaders way back in the day. Mishemeis Yosef ben Ezer, when he passed away, Ish Treda, he was called Ish Treda, from the town of Treda. And also Yosef ben Yochanan, he was Ish, the man of Yerushalayim, the great man. But lo Eshkolos. At that point, that was the last of the Eshkolos. What is Eshkolos? It's like a cluster of grapes, like an eshkol. But here it means wholesomeness, in terms of men who had achieved perfection on all fronts, on all matters of self-development. Ish shakol boy, a man who has everything, achieved all elements of success. Rashi says Torah, on the highest degree Yiras Chet, on the highest degree Engmus Chasadim, which correspond to the 3 primary channels of Avodas Hashem, Torah, Avodas Chasadim, right? So we had great men, leaders of Klal Yisrael, were considered complete, perfect in all realms, but those were the last of the perfect leaders. Once heard from Rebelsky, that's all. And it fits very well with this Gemara that you find in the Megillah. One interesting dichotomy, we find that Haman was called Ish Tsar Va'ayev, it's an evil man, Ish, and then we find by Mordechai as well, Ish, he's called Ish Yehudi. How does that work? So Rebelsky, that's all explained. Ish means a person who maximizes his abilities, full potential. He uses all his koiches. Now it can go either way. You can use it to the right or to the left, to the right or to the wrong. So by Haman it was Ish Tsar Va'ayev. He was the epitome of evil, whereas the opposite we find by Mordechai, Ish Yehudi. He achieved the highest level of greatness and perfection. So it fits very well. Ish Yerushalayim, he was the great man of Yerushalayim. Ish Tzreida, right? All the leaders, all these great perfect leaders that we had in Klal Yisrael, from Moshe Rabbeinu's time until this juncture in history just discussed, they achieved the highest levels of learning. They were able to analyze and to internalize and understand the Torah just like Moshe Rabbeinu, and to apply it and to extrapolate, right? They had such a clarity of understanding, inside out. Going on from that point onward, they weren't as sharp. They didn't have the same grasp anymore. They didn't have the same level of learning like Moshe Rabbeinu. Asked the Gemara, really? How can you say until then everything was perfect? Rabbi Shmuel tells us, during Moshe Rabbeinu's morning, they forgot 3,000 halachos. Yeah, what they forgot. But what they remembered fully with the Gemara. But the ones that they knew, that they learned, the Gemara, Lu Havu Gemiri, whatever they did have was in its fullness and completeness. Asked the Gemara, really? By the time we have a brisa, once Moshe Rabbeinu passes away, there was a lack of clarity, and that generated discord and disputes of all types and disagreements in halacha. In which case, you got to follow the majority. Imrabu metamen, the majority say tamei timu, they would vote accordingly. Imrabu tahir, and if mostly it was tahir tiaru, they would vote accordingly. Apparently, there was a lack of clarity. Liba de'imit, says the Gemara, you're right, their hearts had diminished, meaning their ability to truly comprehend and understand and restore those halachas that were lost. So basically, those 3,000 that they forgot, they didn't have clarity on it. They couldn't restore it. They couldn't there was machlek, there was disagreement. But the rest of the halachas, the rest of the Torah was clear as day. Migmar v'kmiru lo k'moshe Rabbeinu. Masisa Tanu, in the Brisa we have a different formula. Kol hashkolos. So all the great leaders, Shamdli Yisrael, Moshe, Achemesi Yisbeni Ezer, Yisrael, from the time of Moshe until Yisbeni Ezer, there was no deficiency at all in those leaders. Going forward, there would be some deficiency. There was no perfect leader anymore. Asked the Gemara about Tanya, really? From that point onward, there's some sort of deficiency in every leader. Tanya, Masa b'chasad echad, a story with this great pious man. So he was aching in pain, miliboy, due to some heart pains. He was moaning in pain. And they consulted the doctors. They said, the only remedy is every morning has to be nursed with fresh hot milk out of the goat. So they brought this goat. They tied it to the side of his bed. So this way he has what the doctor ordered, right? You can't bring a cow there, so he had a goat. Amru, list mazuyim tich. They tied it to the leg of his bed. And he would actually have a drink every morning. Lamachar, so it happened that the next day, his colleagues, the Chacham, came in to visit Bakachayla. They saw the goat there, and they saw the goat. They said, "Oh, a goat! It's against the rules." Chacham established the halacha. You're not meant to raise goats in Eretz Yisrael, concerned that it's going to go pasture in other fields and damage other people's properties. Listen to Mizuin, there's an armed robber in his house. I'm going to go and visit him. Okay, so they weren't very happy with what he was doing, and the truth is, the Farshim point out, it was a sakana, his life was in danger, but still he should have, because of his piety, he should have, they held him to highest standard. He should have been makvi even on this, not to go against the gzera of the Chacham. But in fact, this is the only thing that they found wrong on his record. Yashua, both they sat down, they examined, but they only found one deviation, the story with the goat. And he himself on himself said when he was passing away, I know regarding myself, it's the only thing I did wrong in my life. I sort of disregarded my colleagues' halacha. The Chacham established the halacha in Megalim, I meant to raise these animals in Israel. Now, who is this chassid? So far he's nameless, but we have a Kabbalah, B'Kaim Elon. Wherever in the Chazal we find Masa B'Chassid Echad, it's one or the other. Either him or Rabbi Ben Bava. And these Chacham, whichever one it is, V'Rabbanan, these Chacham Basar Yosef and Yezer's trader, Dari Havu. They lived many generations after Yosef and Yezer. And if this is only Avera that he did, which wasn't really a bona fide Avera, it was a Finim Rishav Sadeh, and earlier we said that everybody, all leaders, past Yosef and Yezer, had some sort of serious daifi, some sort of deviation, some sort of deficiency. And here, we find a perfect man, a perfect leader. We turn to Talmud Aleph. Rav Yosef. No, we misunderstood. Daifi was not relating to a personal deficiency, something wrong with his behavior. Rather, Daifi shall smicha ktani. So Rashi explains like this on the top Rashi. We're talking about at what point did they begin disputing? At what point did the whole concept of machlekes come about? People sometimes ask, Torah min hashamayim, it's all clear cut. How could there even be one machlekes in Torah? Hashem told Moshe related, they have a clear Messiah. What's the issue? So here's your answer. Says Rashi, Da'ad Yosef ben Yezer, until that point in history, there was never a machlekes at all. Not regarding the halacha of smicha on a carbon, nor anything. All matters of Torah were clear cut, without any room for confusion or dispute. Wow. Because their ability to understand and to retain and to analyze and to apply was so powerful and so razor sharp, so big and broad and deep. There was no room for disagreement and misunderstanding. That only happened later. So machlekes was triggered by miut halev, a lack of understanding, a lack of ability to extrapolate and apply the traditional halacha to our daily lives and the new, kinds of circumstances that come about on a daily, a minute by minute basis, right? That's the source of machlekes, nothing else. Rabbi Gershom adds, he says, Merev tzaros. Because of the tzaros, travesties that are running around, the golos. He writes over there, also because of the lack of shimush chacham. They weren't meshamash chacham enough. Life was in disarray during the golos, during the churbanos, right? There was no ability to actually track everything clearly from Rebbe to Talmud and have a clear-cut tradition on everything. Rashi asks, why did Gemara relate to smicha as the example of the first machlekes? The Yosef machlekes Rishon, because that actually was the first machlekes. First machlekes in history was about smicha. From that point on, at that point on, there was already a machlekes about smicha. The question was whether you can lean on a shlam on yantiv, come chagiga, back in chagiga, shama and lismich, v'lam shlei lismich. That was the first machlekes, which occurred in his time. So back to the Gemara. Amar Rabbi said, until his time, there was no machlekes about smicha, about nothing. That only began going forward. Ask the Gemara, what are you going forward? We find that smicha actually was a topic of discussion and dispute for Yosef ben Yezer himself. Rashi brings him, himself was involved in machlekes. How can we say that machlekes only started after? Machlekes that he was involved in, happened at the end of his lifetime. The batzar liba, the hearts had shrunk and diminished. Rashi says, yeah, so that was toward the end of his era, when their comprehension and their understanding was slowly, diminishing. And as we said, Rabbeinu Gershom adds, and that was the cause of all machlekes. Although the source material, the concepts were related by Hashem to Moshe Rabbeinu, but the applications, extrapolations, etc., that is what is sometimes not clear, and each chacham had to view it his way, and based on his formulas and his kabbalahs and his way of understanding, which ultimately led to a huge Talmud Bavli with tons and tons of discussions and disagreements. But ultimately, we say Elu ve'elu, right? Divrei Elokim Chaim. It's all Hashem's word. Hashem allows us. Hashem enables us. Hashem wants us to contribute our own understanding and comprehend the way we comprehend, and according to our own seichel, of course, based on the traditional, formulas of Shloshis Midos and the way we are makabel from our Rebbes, their Halimud. But that's the idea of Torah delay. It's the idea of Sachlakim Serer Secha V'yir, according to his understanding. It's all Torah Hashem, Divrei Elokim Chaim. Okay, so bottom line, we had a discussion about the Chamesh Chatois HaMesis, which apply to Karban Yochid. Regarding Karban Tzibur, 3 certainly do not apply. Vlad, TEMURAH, and Mesu Ba'aleh, as we discussed in the Gemara, Ein Tzibur Mesim. Regarding the other 2, well, that's a machlekes, whether there's Misa or not. According to Reb Shimon, there's no Misa at all by Tzibur. It's a package deal. Since some don't apply, they all don't apply. We had a whole interesting episode with the Bini Beis HaMikdash Hasheni, which featured a big crowd, some ecstatic, some crying, each one reflecting on his own personal experience. And we spoke about the great Eshkolos and the 3,000 halachas that were forgotten in the time of Evlei Shel Moshe. We spoke about the story of the Chassid Echad, who was perfect, just about, and the origin of the whole concept of machlekes in Torah Sheba'al Peh. All the best to you, and Atzlach Rab.